name is Professor Ncwadi from Nelson Mandela University, South Africa. I am presenting today my paper entitled Digitalization and Entrepreneurial Dynamism in South Africa, Evidence from a Seemingly Unrelated Regression. This study looks at entrepreneurship as an engine for inclusive growth. Entrepreneurship drives job creation and reduces inequality in emerging economies like South Africa. Digitalization lowers entry barriers, reduces cost, and expands market access for entrepreneurs. With youth unemployment about 45% in South Africa, digital tools offer new pathways for self-employment and innovation. Limited macro-level empirical evidence on how digitalization influence entrepreneurs in South Africa compels us to engage in a study using a seemingly unrelated regression model to analyze digitalization's impact on entrepreneurship and unemployment, informing digital economic policy. The theoretical literature review used in the study is based on Schumpeter's theory, where he speaks about creative destruction by using digital tools. Also, Nietzschean uncertainty and firms theory shows that entrepreneurs exercise judgment under the conditions of uncertainty, with digitalization reshaping the firm boundaries through flexible platform-based models. On the other hand, Kersner shows that digital technologies enhance the ability to identify and exploit hidden opportunities via data analytics. Cognitive and cultural perspective show that digitalization amplifies creativity and imagination, whereas resource and leadership views show that digital tools streamline resource management and amplify charismatic leadership, allowing entrepreneurs to build strong digital identities and mobile networks. Empirical literature review that we've picked up shows key findings, which I'm going to go through these key findings now. In Africa, for example, ICT is shown as that ICT's penetration as a positive link to human development. However, it lacks direct entrepreneurship focus. In North America, early adoption of digital tools improves startup survival, micro-level focus only. South America, digital orientation leads to innovation, which leads to stronger SME performance, but it ignores the informal sector. In Asia, mobile payments increase self-employment by improving access and reducing cost. Studies in Europe shows that digital infrastructure enhances early-stage entrepreneurship, focus on high digital EU states. In Oceania, digital self-efficacy boosts entrepreneurial resilience limited to perceptual measures. This study identifies a research gap. You notice that most studies treat digitalization as exogenous, ignoring its simultaneous impact on self-employment and unemployment. Few macro-level studies exist for South Africa using system estimation models. This study makes a contribution to the body of knowledge by introducing a seemingly unrelated regression model to estimate interdependent effects of digitalization, entrepreneurship, and unemployment. The study provides a comprehensive macroeconomic analysis tailored to South Africa's digital decision. So, justification for use of seemingly unrelated model in the study is based on the following, that this study, since digitalization affects both entrepreneurship and unemployment simultaneously, seemingly unrelated regression efficiently captures these joint effects. Also, estimating them jointly prevents loss of information from their shared dynamics, producing more accurate insights. In emerging economies like South Africa, policies on digitalization, employment, and entrepreneurship are often coordinated. Therefore, SUR captures their concurrent impact. Determinants of entrepreneurship and unemployment differ but overlap. Therefore, the SUR accommodates these differences without forcing identical predictors. It also reinforces the methodological credibility of using seemingly unrelated regression to model complex relationships among digitalization, entrepreneurship, and unemployment. The equation that we are assessing or analyzing in the study, there are two equations. First one with a dependent of self-employment, which is a proxy for entrepreneurship. The second one is using unemployment and the related independent variables, which I'm going to explain in the following slide. However, our assumption in this model is that the covariance between these error terms of equation 1 and error term of equation 2 is not equal to 0. So let me go through the description of the variables used in the study. One, we use number of self-employed individuals, which is a proxy for entrepreneurship. We also use unemployment. Both of those are dependent variable. And the explanatory variables are ICT, which is a proxy for digitalization. That is mobile broadband subscription per 100 people. We use real GDP growth rate. We use human capital index as a proxy for education or literacy rate. We've used urban population share. We use foreign direct investment as a net flow as percentage of GDP. Then we used trade openness and of course the error terms of both equations. Those are the explanatory variables that we used in the study. You can read the full paper where all these are explained. We then
There's a problem, Professor. There's no sound. Prof, are you there? Either it is frozen or...
began by testing for stationarity. And you notice an I0. That's in order to be stationary. GDP had to be different in order to be stationary. And part of this presentation. The results suggest the following. Equation 1, you see on the left-hand side columns, and the right-hand side columns will be equation 2. Equation 1, the dependent variable there is entrepreneurship. Now you see, when you put ICT as a digitalization, it has a negative coefficient of -2, and is also significant at 1% level, meaning that the ICT has a probability of reducing entrepreneurship, meaning that those small businesses or maybe informal sector businesses do not have access to ICT, or it could be data costs that make them not to be able to be successful in view of digitalization. At the same time, we can see that digitalization increases unemployment in equation 2, which has a positive coefficient of 0.69 and is significant at 5% level, meaning that digitalization increases unemployment. So this speaks to a job displacement where people lose jobs as a result of digitizing the economy. Economic growth is not significant in either entrepreneurship or the labor market. Human capital investment also is not significant in either entrepreneurship or unemployment. However, unemployment itself, you can see that it increases digitalization, it increases entrepreneurship. Why? It has a positive coefficient of 0.69 and a significant at 5% level. What does this mean? It means that there's evidence in South Africa that unemployed people tend to move towards entrepreneurship. We call this necessity entrepreneurs. They are entrepreneurs because they are unemployed. Now, if you look at the variable of self-employed persons, it has a positive relationship with unemployment, meaning again that these entrepreneurs or these businesses or self-employed persons are not creating jobs, because as we increase self-employed persons or entrepreneurship, unemployment also increases at the same time in a significant a 5% level. So these businesses are not creating jobs in South Africa. Look at urbanization. It is not statistically significant in both of these dependent variables. The FDI has a negative relationship with entrepreneurship, meaning that the FDIs are not significant, so they do not really affect entrepreneurship. At the same time, the FDIs have a positive relationship with unemployment and is also significant at 1% level, meaning the FDIs do not necessarily create what? Jobs. So meaning that we need to look at the quality of these FDIs that in South Africa, because the probability is that these FDIs are capital intensive instead of labor intensive. Trade openness, we can say that it has a positive relationship with entrepreneurship, meaning there are some gains from trade from these small businesses. However, trade openness has a negative effect on unemployment. However, it is not significant. So again, looking at diagnostics, again, that shows that, this model that we've used is correct model. And you see that the diagnostics on the cross equation, the SQL diagnostics confirm that the interconnected nature of these two regression model requires that we use seemingly unrelated regression model. Implications of the study. The dual impact of digitalization, ICT simultaneously decreases self-employment and increases unemployment, signaling a structural challenge that demands proactive digital skills and labor market reforms. Quality of FDI is a matter of concern. Positive link between FDI and unemployment suggests that investment must shift towards labor-absorbing, value chain integrated sectors rather than capital-intensive methods of production. Necessity entrepreneurs, here there's a strong correlation between unemployment and self-employment, which reveals that many individuals enter entrepreneurship out of economic necessity. Creative destruction of Schumpeter, which I referred to in my theoretical underpinnings of the study, is consistent with Schumpeter's theory, where technological progress disrupts existing jobs before new ones are created. Trade openness as an enabler, it has a modest positive effect of trade liberalization on entrepreneurship, which implies deeper trade facilitation. We recommend as follows: fund and promote digital skills training programs and reskill the workforce. We must develop a dual track entrepreneurship program where we look at the necessity-based entrepreneurs as well as opportunity-driven entrepreneurs. We need to strategically attract and manage FDI to maximize job creation. We need to prioritize labor-intensive investment with domestic supply chain linkages. I want to conclude by saying ICT reduces self-employment while increasing unemployment. High unemployment drives individuals to self-employment as a survival strategy. Trade openness modestly boosts entrepreneurial activity, signaling the potential of deeper global integration to stimulate business creation. Also, foreign investment initially raises unemployment due to capital-intensive restructuring, underscoring the need to prioritize labor-absorbing and locally embedded FDIs. And finally, we need to invest in digital skills training, develop dual-track entrepreneurship support, and strategically manage FDI to turn challenges into drivers of inclusive, sustainable growth. That said, I want to thank you, ladies and gentlemen.